All right, so welcome to the Barber Straight Talk Show, where we have conversations with influential people at any scale, hosted by a barber, but made for everyone. So without further ado, I want to introduce everybody to Tyler Morris.
What's up? What's up?
AKA DJ Westend.
No DJ. It's just Westend.
It's just Westend.
Well, I feel like the DJ before is like a super like old school thing with DJs. You'd have like DJ Premier, and it's like more of a hip hop thing. But for most people, it's like DJ then the name.
Yeah.
But
really?
Yeah, like in high school, everyone used to be like DJ Tyler Morris.
So you don't like to be called DJ?
It's just like for the kind of music I do, it's not super popular. So yeah, I prefer just Westend.
So
but I am a DJ.
So everybody in that world, like in that, because you look like the genre you do is
electronic
music. So everybody in that world don't call each other, don't refer to DJ.
No, I mean like as a profession, it's like you're a DJ, but usually it's not. People don't say DJ and then the name, because nowadays a DJ, especially in electronic music, it's like a full artist, kind of like a pop star almost, or you know, a hip hop artist. So usually it's just a name, like a name that you would call any artist, like Nirvana, Ariana Grande. You know,
got it.
It's like it would be like saying like singer Ariana Grande.
I got it.
But there is like the old school connotation of like DJ Vanilla Ice, DJ blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So
cool, man. So I actually wrote a very brief intro.
Cool.
So I'm gonna read this out, and hopefully I'm accurate, and then you can correct me if anything.
Hit me with it.
Well, I'm actually gonna correct myself because I said DJ Westend
it's
here,
okay. I like it.
Tyler Morris is a professional DJ that goes by the name of Westend.
Correct.
Who's produced tracks on Dirty Bird, Repopulate Mars, Solo Toco, Technique, Club Sweat. You've broke the top 10 on Beatport, which is the world's largest music store for DJs. And in fact, one of your tracks peaked to number 2 and have near 4 million Spotify streams. You've performed in shows like EDC Vegas, EDC Orlando, Spring Awakening, Electric Zoo, Brooklyn Mirage, and a bunch of other places that I'm sure we'll probably get into. And to add to all of that, you now have a production course, which I believe is called Kick and Bass.
That is correct.
Cool, where you teach aspiring artists how to produce tracks and essentially be a DJ themselves, which is really cool, and I really want to focus a lot of time on that. Yeah, man, so without further ado, I want to congratulate you for all your success.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
I think I met you early last year?
Yeah, I think end of last year.
Was it end of last? Well, we're hold on. We're in 2022 now.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I forgot we're in 2022. So definitely 2020. I don't think we met in 2020. 2021 we met.
2021. Maybe like
early
spring,
mid or something like that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, man. I mean, you know, for the time I've known you, you've done a lot of things. Coincidentally, we actually have some similarities in terms of like the courses that you're providing. I'm providing courses for my own industry.
I think we found that out like after
a long time.
I actually thought it was earlier. I thought it was like after like the first or second haircut, we were just like talking about like what we do, and then because we were both kind of developing our businesses at that point, so you had a bunch of advice for me, and I was kind of telling you stuff as well. I think that was actually like pretty ery on, and then like every time we'd get a haircut, I kind of like update you. Yeah, because I started that kick and bass business around July 1st, I think we launched.
Interesting.
So
yeah, that's
I think I had just started it, and that's probably when I first met you. And it's funny because I would update you every time we get a haircut. We talk about it, and just to like see the growth that it's done since then in like a short period of time, it's been crazy.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously congratulations.
Thank you
for that. And then you after COVID, you got back on the road and you started performing. Yeah. So it's like kind of like almost like back to regular swing. Hopefully it stays that way. And but anyways, man, congratulations. Thank you for taking the time. Obviously, you don't have to. We're completely different. We have completely different audiences. We're in completely different industries, so you didn't have to, so I appreciate it.
But I think that's cool. It's when people that do different things are able to get together in the same room and you know, talk about common similarities. Because I think it doesn't really matter what you do if you're, you know, involved in growing a brand or like growing a business. There's, you know, commonalities that it doesn't matter what industry you're in.
Yeah, for sure. And that's literally one of my goals with the show is to bring that, you know, at least for me in my field of expertise, I notice a lot of, I mean, there's a lack of a lot of things. So, you know, to go back to your point is for sure it's super beneficial, and that's one of my goals is to kind of like talk to different people that are doing completely different things in completely different industries where you can kind of like extract some of those things and apply for and apply for your own self. But yeah, man, so that was a little introduction that I put together, but I want you to kind of give your own introduction, just to give some context of you know, you, the artist, the person behind, you know, the set, and then we'll get started.
For sure. I'm not great at introductions because for me, I'll get started on how I got into DJing. So I'm born and raised in New York. I'm 27 years old, and I got into DJing in high school. I had a friend that was a DJ, and you know, in New York City, it's hard to have parties because no one really has like houses. Everyone lives in these apartment buildings. You have neighbors. It's like hard to, you know, have loud music. So as high schooler teenagers that like wanted to party, we would rent out these little kind of venues around the city. So maybe it was a community center, or maybe it was, you know, one time like we rented like a synagogue, and we would throw these kind of like raves there. And so I had a friend that was the DJ, and I would go to this and I would see that this guy's kind of in control of the whole party. Everyone's focused on him, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. Like, I want to be able to do that. So I kind of got into DJing in high school, and it was always like a hobby for me. So I graduated high school. I went to college. I went to Duke University, which is like where my mom went. It's like a pretty prestigious university in the South. And you know, I was DJing there, but it was always like a side hobby kind of thing, like doing fraternity and sorority parties like on the weekend. And I actually majored in public policy, so not related to music at all. It was like kind of like political science and economics combined. But so it was always like a hobby for me. And then I graduated college in 2016, and I moved back to New York, moved back home actually, and got a job at a tech company called Yext. They basically do kind of like online management for businesses based on like their listings. So you have a company like McDonald's.
Are they still around?
Yeah, they're still around. So they actually went public while I was there in like 2017 or 18. But if you have like a big company like McDonald's, you know, they have 10,000 stores across the US, across the world. And what Yext did was they allowed it so that if McDonald's wanted to, you know, update their bio on all of their Google listings all at once with the click of a button, it was like a platform to do that. And so I worked there as not a software engineer, but kind of as a operations manager. So I would help these clients load their data into the system, and then you know, do a little bit of coding, blah, blah, blah. So I did that for 3 years, and I was like, I knew I wanted to be a DJ. I knew this was, electronic music was something that I was like obsessed with. Couldn't, you know, all my free time was like reading about other artists, you know, learning about music production, going to shows on the weekend, going to clubs. So it was like always like my passion, and I worked basically for 3 years and kind of had that as like my side hustle.
Would you say you had the year for it? Or you had to develop the ear for music?
You know, a lot of people say that music is something that like you're born with, kind of like it's a talent, and I completely disagree with that. I think especially with the tools that exist today, you can, if you just put in enough time and hard work, you can get really good at music production. And I'm not even very, you know, musical in the classical sense of musical. Like I'm not musically trained. I can't read sheet music. If you give me a piano, you know, I can do a couple little things, but I'm not super good at it. But if you give me a laptop with my program and all the sounds that I use, I can like make a full song. So I don't think it is something that like is like an innate talent, but if you put in the hours, you can become an expert at it.
Dope.
People say that like if you put in, it takes 10,000 hours to become like an expert at something. So it's like I wonder if I could probably do the calculations and figure out how many hours I put in, but
well, they say I've heard that saying before. 10,000 hours to become an expert, but that's to become an expert. That's not to become good.
Yeah, no.
You can become good with 3,000 hours.
Definitely.
And then you can just get started with that, and then eventually you get the 10,000 hours or whatever.
And the way the society's moving, there's so many kind of tricks and tips. So 10,000 hours 15 years ago in a certain skill may be totally different than 10,000 hours in 2022.
That is right. That is true.
So yeah, basically I quit my job at one point. This was in end of 2018, and I was like, I live at home. I'm 24 years old. I have, I'm not married. I don't have a kid. I have this dream of becoming a DJ and doing it full time, where I can tour around and make all my money just on DJing and producing.
Right.
And I was like, so there's pretty much no better time in my life to give this my everything, my all every single day than right now. So I put in my 2 weeks at work, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to dedicate all my time to making music, to promoting my artist brand, which is Westend, on social media. And then since 2018, it's just been growing and growing and growing from that. The pandemic was a kind of big hiccup for that, because if you were a performing artist during the pandemic, it was pretty terrible, especially 2020 into 2021. Pretty much all the venues closed all around the world. That's how you make your money as a DJ for the most part, is you perform at different clubs, at festivals, at, wherever. And with that not really being an option, financially it's pretty hard to get by.
Yeah, for sure. If you don't mind me, I'm gonna pause you for a second, because I want to go back to something you said earlier, which was that decision, right? To that you're like, okay, cool, like I'm gonna do it. Obviously, you thought about all the different scenarios, and you're like, well, I don't have a kid, I don't have any responsibilities, X, Y, and Z, whatever.
Yep.
But like, aside from that, because that's just, those things could be used as an excuse or as a reason to not do something. But there's, on a foundational level, there's always that motivation, or that's something that really pushes you. Was there one moment that you just woke up and you're like, fuck this, I'm doing it? Or was it a gradual thing that you were just like, the itch became bigger and bigger?
I mean, me personally, I'm not super risky of like an individual. So like when I make decisions about my life, like in any aspect, I tend to, make sure that the decision I'm making, I feel like really comfortable with. I don't really like to do things right off a whim. So at the time that I quit, I'd actually had a decent amount of success already as a DJ. So like a lot of other artists and DJs were playing my music in their sets, so I kind of had this momentum growing. I was playing a couple shows, for maybe a couple $100 here and there in other cities. So, I was starting to kind of make my way around the US playing. So I wasn't kind of starting from like nothing, and I knew I had something to work off of. So, I think a lot of times people will maybe take like a really big risk on something, or maybe do it a little bit prematurely. So, mentioning that I was living at home at the time, I knew I wouldn't have rent to pay. Mm-hmm. It's really easy when you're chasing your dream, especially if your dream is something in like the arts world, to get burnt out, or to life kind of hit you so hard that you can't pursue it. So, if you're struggling to pay rent and you have like a really, hard quality of life where you have a lot of responsibilities, and you're not going to be the best artist you can be in that scenario. Mm-hmm. So, for me, I knew that I was be able to, do this and be pretty comfortable. I was living at home, which, a lot of my friends and stuff at the time, they all had their own apartments. And of course I wanted it to be, living not with my parents at 24 years old, but it was something I was willing to do to get my dream. So it wasn't like one single moment. It was more of like things built up. I kind of like mapped out where I was, and I was like, okay, this is like a good time.
So you were working 9 to 5.
Yeah, like a 9 to 5.
And then after the whatever,
I'd come home
5
from
o'clock,
work,
and then you just
I would work on music. I would jump on the computer. Like sometimes, like stay up like really late into the night because like if you get an idea and you're making a track, the last thing you want to do is be like, oh, I have to go to sleep because I have to wake up. Like you got those creative juices flowing. You want to keep at it. So sometimes staying up at night, and I was even taking vacation time from work to perform because if I had a show Saturday, Sunday, it's just so hard to go back into work on that Monday. So sometimes I would be like, have to take the Monday off, or if I was going somewhere, I went to Croatia for like a small festival, and like I had to take like a week off of work to make that happen. So it was kind of like the work. It got to a point where my day job was, it was hard to do both at the same time, and I kind of lost.
And you felt the momentum kind of shift.
Yeah, and then there was like a time when I was like, okay, I know that like now is a good time. It's hard to describe. It wasn't like you're right. There is like just kind of like a feeling, but it wasn't like that feeling. Just
it wasn't like I woke up and I'm like
I had a dream, and in my dream someone came to me and it was like you have to do this. It was like no, it was like I analyzed the situation I was in. I kind of like made a plan of what I was gonna do, and I felt like really comfortable in the decision. I wasn't like nervous about. Quitting my job.
Because you knew you're following your gut feeling.
Exactly, and I knew that I had the skills and like the motivation to do it. I mean, that isn't to say it wasn't scary, and I didn't know if I was going to succeed or not.
Sure.
But I've read a lot of interviews with other successful DJs and producers, and a lot of like the ones that became really big, what they'll say is that they had no doubt in their mind that they would do all the things that they like wanted to do. Like
right.
There's these guys, Solardo, they're these British DJs. They said this in the interview. There's like, we had a list of all these festivals and venues we wanted to play around the world, and they were like, we know we're gonna do it all.
Like there was just no doubt.
Exactly. And that
full confidence.
That full confidence is like
it'll take you everywhere.
It'll take you anywhere. It's usually just like a matter of like when. It's not like a matter of if you're gonna do those things. Exactly. It's like when am I gonna do them?
But I guess the question is, and maybe some people may be wondering this, it's like, okay, cool, you have the confidence, but obviously the confidence has to come from somewhere. It doesn't just come out of nowhere, right? And it's widely known that confidence comes from practice, and so like, you said that you were working on 9 to 5, you were already making music on the side, and your music was already being played by other DJs.
Yeah.
How'd you get other DJs to play your music?
So this was like around like 2016 era, and there weren't as many. I mean, there were a lot of like up and coming artists and DJs and producers, but there weren't as many as there are today, and the social media was a little bit different back then. So it was a little bit easier to get a hold of other artists. So, I use something called SoundCloud, where you can upload any song that you make to your profile. You can upload it as a private track, so you don't, it's not like the public sees it. It's just kind of like your little Dropbox. And, I would make these tracks, and then I would, SoundCloud, you can message other artists. I would message them and be like, yo, I'm a big fan. Here's like one of my tracks. There's other ways like DJs can discover your music. So a big thing is like labels. So when you put out a song, there's different labels. And in electronic music, there's a lot of like independent, smaller labels. When you think of like hip hop, you have like the big ones like Def Jam, Interscope. These are like what we call major labels. They're run by, there's only like 3 big ones. It's like Universal, Sony, and Warner Music Group. Those are like the 3 majors. And most pop music and like hip hop music
comes from
that, or it's one of their subsidiaries. But in electronic music, anyone can kind of start a label. You just got to get like a logo and an identity. So
sorry.
So I was gonna say is that when you release music on labels, a lot of DJs follow these labels. There's like the store Beatport, which we talked about before. That's like kind of like the iTunes for electronic music. So sometimes DJs will just see your music on there, and then you know, a big thing with DJs is that they'll play a venue and they'll get videos of them playing for this big crowd or festival, and they'll post that on social media. So, you know, I had videos of these DJs that I all looked up to kind of playing my music, and I was able to take those videos, post it on my social media, and be like, wow, this is crazy. XYZ just played my song, and, you know, you can kind of create some buzz around your name from that, because if someone else sees that, oh, this big DJ is playing this guy's song, you know, who is this guy? I want to check him out. I want to know what he's about.
How many DJs well, there's a two-part question. How many people actually responded to you?
Yeah.
And how many people actually played that you know of that played your song out of, you know, however many people you reached out to?
Sent it to? I definitely don't have an exact number, but I'll say a couple of things on that. One cool feature of SoundCloud is you can see actually who listened to the music. Oh. So you send it as a private link, and kind of like, I think you can do this with email as well, but you can kind of check the stats. So I was able to see if this DJ, you know, even opened up my email or message and clicked it and listened to it. You can also see if they downloaded it or not. So I was able to, just because the DJ downloads your song doesn't mean they're going to play it in the set. They could just, like, you know.
But at least you know that person.
Yeah, at least, like, you know, that they had some interest in it to the point where they would, you know, A, listen to it, and B, download it. So, you know, I would say back then, now the ratio is a lot worse, I think, because it's just so much easier to message people on Instagram and email, like, you know, and there's so many more producers now that are kind of sending their music out when it's really not that good. So I feel like DJs don't...
It's like spammy.
Yeah, it's a little spammy nowadays. Back then, it was a little less spammy. So, you know, if I got, like, 1 in, like, 15 or, like, 1 in 20, like, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I mean, if you're, like, a new kind of DJ or producer, it's probably going to be a lot less, but...
Yeah, it's probably, like, 1 out of 100.
I would add people on Facebook, like, find their real names, like, look up their DJ name in an interview, find out what their real name was, look them up on Facebook, add them as a friend, and then shoot them a message. And, you know, a big thing about the electronic music world is that it's not too big, so it's like a pretty small circle, and everyone's kind of like friends with each other.
Yeah.
So, you know, for me, I never tried to be spammy when I was reaching out to these other DJs. I was always trying to build a relationship with them, find some common ground.
And was there a specific language you used on those emails?
You know, I was always just, like, real with people, and I never tried to be, like, too professional and, like, kind of, like...
Because I'm sorry, I'm laughing, because, like, I asked this question for selfish reasons, because I'm literally going to do, like, I'm waiting for your response, because I'm just going to copy and paste and do the same shit, because, you know, for whoever I want on the podcast, so...
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, a good template is to always... I think I saw this somewhere once, I forgot, but... kind of like compliment them in a way that's not too... Can we curse on this?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Compliment them in a way that's not too kind of like sucking their dick a little bit, where, you know, you want to... You know, if you can tell when someone's sucking up to you and they're just like, whatever. So, and I think that's like a turn off for a lot of people. So, you know, always find a way to be like, hey, I really love, like, all your stuff. I played out, blah, blah, blah. I have this... you know, I just made this new track, would love to hear what you think of it, thanks. Like, short and sweet. Sometimes people send like a whole bio of, like, everything they've ever done, and it's like, no, you don't really, like, care about that. It's like, you know, little introduction, here's what I want from you. You know, if you're too busy, it's all good, and then that's that. But that's kind of like a good, like, cold way to message someone, like, if you don't know them or you've never talked to them before. But, you know, I would try to always become friends with the person somehow without asking anything of them. So, you know, if it's like, if you're not doing it online, I would go to people's shows and try to hang out with them and meet them, like other DJs and artists, you know, really build a relationship, because so much of the industry, you know, if you're a DJ and you're picking who you want to come on tour with you as your opener, you know, you're going to pick your friends over some random person.
Right.
You know, I've always, and I still do that to this day, anytime I meet someone, you know, I always try to kind of like befriend them in a way that's not too invasive or too asking of anything. But yeah.
Dope, man. So then we can fast forward to like At this point, before you quit your job, did you already have the name Westend, the brand?
I was actually making music with a friend from high school, and we were called C and T. His name was Che, and I'm Tyler, so it was like C and T. And we just kind of had some differences personally at the time, and I was the guy that was kind of making all the music in the computer. And, you know, I was like, I kind of just want to do this solo. I don't really like the idea of having to cross every decision with another person and kind of like come to a conclusion together. I want to be able to like make a decision like that. So it was like 2016. I was like, you know, I'm going to do this solo, and I needed a name. So I kind of knew I wanted something with a W just because there were some artists at the time that I liked that started with a W, and I grew up on West End Avenue in Manhattan on the Upper West Side, and I just kind of liked the, you know, the syllables, like West End. It was like nice and easy to say, so I was like,
so you just picked that name.
I just picked that name. Yeah, it's funny because a lot of times when you pick a name, I feel like people get, you know, they think really hard about it and they're like, oh, it sounds lame, but then like once something is like already big, you're like, oh yeah, that name's cool. But like when you started off, you're just like,
it sounds
I don't know.
weird.
Yeah, it sounds weird, like West End.
There's no ring to it.
Exactly, there's no ring to it. But then like you look at people like, I don't know, like Post Malone, like that's a kind of weird name, right? But now when you just like say it, you're just like, oh, Post Malone, like it's cool. So you know, someone was asking me about how to pick their name recently. I was just thinking about that. But.
I mean, there's a bunch of different. There's even apps these days where you can do it. No, that's sick, man. So then you quit your job.
Yeah.
And you went full time.
Went full time.
Did you have a plan, or were you winging it?
I didn't have like, I'm really bad at like structuring my days, so I didn't really, and that was one of the biggest things was like I went from an environment where I knew exactly what I had to do. I was on this big team with all these managers and, you know, all these processes that I knew how to do, and, you know, organization, this is the task you have to do today for the company, blah, blah, blah. And then I went to all of that gone. You literally have to figure out what you're going to do every single day to get to that point. And like the first few months were like super rough because I just like didn't really have any discipline. You know, I was waking up like super late, 11:30, 12. In my mind, I was just like, all I got to do is like make really good music and, you know, post on Instagram a couple times a week or whatever. So it kind of took me a while, and I would actually say it took me like more than a year. It really was only until this year, 2021, that I kind of got into a flow where I feel myself busy with things to do all the time and got really organized. And like it definitely took a toll on my mental health as well, because when you go into an office every day, it's so much of your day is structured and you kind of just go with the flow. When you're sitting at home all day and you have to like figure out what you're gonna do, you're stuck with your thoughts, and you know that can be like.
And then sometimes you can get stuck with like, okay, like I have all these things that I'm thinking of doing, but like, what should I prioritize? And then 2 hours goes by and you're like, shit, I didn't do anything.
Exactly. Or like, you know, there's no one to bounce things off of. You don't have like a manager you can ask questions to. When you do something nice, usually you know, or when you complete something in a corporate environment or, you know, in any kind of job, it's like it's very obvious that thing is done. But with like, you know, trying to become a big artist, there's not really like a steps to do or a plan. So, you know, it took me a while to kind of figure it out, and I think it's different for everyone. But you know, what I did was I just tried to make as much music as possible and, you know, improve my skills in music. Always learning on YouTube from other, you know, producers, always trying to educate myself on it. You know, studying what was popular on the charts at the moment, kind of figuring out how I can do my own spin on that and do something a little different, you know, listening to what other DJs were playing, and growing social media at the same time.
Right.
I've never had like a really like exponential social media growth. It's always been like pretty like linear. I never had like a moment where a video went viral or anything like that. I don't.
How important do you think, as in a performing artist?
Yeah.
How important do you think social media is?
It's funny. Last night I was like looking at one of my favorite artists like Instagram, and he was like, you know, in today's day and age, you really have to be super good at social media to be an artist. I don't think I am really good at social media. It just feels good to put this out there. And this guy has 190,000 followers on Instagram already. He's kind of like a legend in the world, but he's an older guy. He's not like keeping up with all the trends. And I think nowadays, like the algorithms have gotten like super brutal, especially on some of the platforms where you would have these people that had really good engagement on social media, and now for some reason the engagement is just down. Like everyone I've talked to has noticed it, and you can kind of see it as well. So it's just very draining when you're an artist, because all you really want to do is focus on your art and your music. The last thing you want to do is like worried about content creation every day. And for some people it's a lot easier, and for some people it's a lot harder. It's kind of like the reality we live in these days, though.
Yeah. I mean, it's like it's not even just being an artist. It's honestly just being an individual.
Yeah.
Because attention equates to currency, and it's always been that way. It's just the attention has been shifted throughout time to different platforms, different mediums, and different things. So now obviously we have the attention is all on social media, where you literally wake up and you're on it.
Yeah.
Instead of like TV show where like, okay, well, you have to go jump through all these. It's like a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
It's like it benefits you, but at the same time, it's like, well, then you're gonna have to do some extra work. And because of the way social media is now, you're required to do so much more work. It's like you literally have to be a marketing machine.
Yeah.
Aside from doing music and doing everything else, and I've been struggling with I wouldn't say struggling in a sense of like I haven't had any progress, but it's a struggle where it's just like it's frustrating sometimes, where you put so much time, energy, and effort, and sometimes even money, and it's like it doesn't make a difference. The progress remains the same, and so it seems, right? So like playing the long term is obviously the best way to go.
Yeah.
Because you're not gonna stop DJing anytime soon, right?
Hopefully not.
Yeah, hopefully not. And I mean, I'm not gonna stop doing what I'm doing anytime soon. So playing the long game is really the only.
It's like a necessary evil, kind of. And it's like, for me, what has helped me is just to kind of like make it part of like my routine. So for like my social media, I definitely try to put in like work to make it look good, but for my brand, it's very kind of like lifestyle focused. So all I have to do is kind of pull out my camera a couple times a day and talk to my followers and fans, or kind of film what I'm doing, and I try to kind of invite them into my life and like my other interests outside of music.
Yeah.
I think that's like a big thing these days is people want to see like who the real you is. A couple years ago, a DJ on social media was like all these like photos of them at the private jet and doing all these fancy DJ stuff. But nowadays a lot of people are just kind of rewarded for being like their authentic self and showing their lives
without any filters, any stuff.
Exactly, and like no filters, just kind of people like that realness. So I'll film myself if I'm like fishing, which is like my other big hobby, or cooking, or like whatever it is, and just kind of that way it doesn't feel like I have to like be someone I'm not on social media. I can be my true self, and then I think that is important in the long run, because if you try to pretend to be someone you're not on social media, you got to keep up that act, and it's just going to be harder and harder and harder. Draining, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
What so just out of my pure curiosity, and I'm sure other people are curious too, what is like to be a DJ that tours around constantly? You're flying out west, you're flying everywhere, every weekend or every other weekend. What's life like? It's like you see on social media, and you just assume it's like this whole big glamorous life, and you go there, you party, you do your set, and then it's like this big glamorous like Hollywood kind of lifestyle. And I'm sure there are DJs out there, and you know, even bigger names, like names that are in like mainstream media.
Like David Guetta or something like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
You know, like those people are just, you know, way up on top.
Levels to the shit. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a different world. But like you know, you make a living doing it. You do a very good job, and you obviously, you know, you recently we can talk about that. You recently went to London,
yep.
right? To potentially get signed by a label there.
Yep.
And so, like, what's life like?
I just posted a TikTok yesterday where I did a little like kind of like mini vlog for
saw that, yeah.
for New Year's Eve. So I kind of talked through it a little bit with some videos. But I would say, like, if I had to generalize DJing at like my level, where you kind of travel around the country and play different festivals and different clubs, it's super high highs, and this sounds kind of depressing, but it's like super high highs and pretty low lows. And that doesn't mean that, like, you know, it can get like super depressing, but like what I mean by that is, let's say you're playing a festival. So you leave your house, you get on a flight there, you know, you're kind of by yourself, maybe you're on a flight for like 6 hours, maybe it gets delayed like 3 times. Mm-hmm. Then, you know, you get to your hotel, you're by yourself, you check in, you get to the festival, you have your 1 hour time slot where you're pretty much like a god to like however many people you're playing to. You're like this single figure that everyone's looking at, that you're basically controlling 10,000 people by making them dance. So you kind of feel like a god for like that 1 hour, and the rush that you get from that is like stronger. The rush from performing is like better than any drug you could ever imagine. It's better than sex. It's like the best feeling ever, basically. And that's why so many musicians kind of like chase that, because you just, the dopamine and the endorphins. Like if I'm ever tired and I get up and play, like the adrenaline when I'm off that stage is like crazy. So you basically have that like hour or whatever where, you know, you're the highest you could ever be, and then, you know, maybe you have to like rush to the airport, get on another like 6 hour flight, and, you know, your body could be like super tired and blah blah blah. So, you know, there are these like kind of like glamorous like moments, but there's so much like downtime in between where you're like by yourself. And some, like for me, it took me a while to kind of get used to that, of, you know, not glamorizing the moment too much of DJing, and trying to keep your mental health and your like excitement level pretty standard, because it's like super easy to burn out. Obviously in the industry there's like a lot of like alcohol and drugs as well, so you know, a lot of people will end up developing problems with that just because
they're around it so often.
You're around it, and everyone's like, you know, you get free drinks all the time and blah blah blah. You know, nothing's worse than like having to get on a flight where you're super hungover and it's just like you have no sleep. But yeah, so like usually I'll tour around on the weekends. You know, most people aren't clubbing and festivals aren't happening during the weekdays.
True.
So that's when I get back to my apartment in New York, and that's kind of when I'll work on music, I'll work on social media.
Do you consider social media now part of your job?
It is part of my job, so I do it while I'm on the road, and that's usually where I get the most content, is like when I'm performing, when I'm on the road.
Yeah.
You know, there's always funny stuff to film and things to kind of show as you're traveling.
How do you get your content? Is there a content point person that the production has, and then they share that file with you?
Yeah, usually DJs will hire videographers and photographers for the show. Some of them, you know, have tour managers that fly with them that are their content creators, and so you kind of have like the same guy with you, and that's usually the best, because they can get you the files like, you know, the night of, like in the hotel, rather than waiting for the guy like a day later. So but yeah, like it depends on where I'll play. I usually like know some photographers or videographers, hit them up, you know, pay them a few $100. They come to the venue, film everything for me. Sometimes the clubs have their own venues. They have their own guys, but usually getting your own person that's just there to focus on you is like the best.
The best, So let's talk about a little bit of your course.
Yeah.
Because that's super interesting. I think there's this. I don't know if I want to call it a movement. I don't think it's a movement, but it's definitely a shift in the way people educate themselves.
Yeah. Self-education, kind of.
Self-education. I think I think, in my personal opinion, there's going to be a huge kind of like shift of there's already a shift in traditional education, college and universities and stuff, but there's going to be a lot of people that are going to opt out of college because they know they can literally buy someone's course that they're going to learn the exact skill that they want to learn
for way cheaper and on their
way
own
cheaper
time.
And you're getting literally, you're not being, your time is not wasted with any other nonsense other than that one specific thing.
Exactly.
Right.
It's definitely a big trend.
So it's definitely a good space to be in. It's lucrative, but it's also not easy because that's just a whole nother level of work. Your social media has to tie in together with that. So I know what the reason is, but just for the sake of everyone else, what was the turning point that made you go that route and offer their services, and then we can kind of jump into like how you're doing it and managing it and like the whole back end of everything.
For sure, yeah. So when the pandemic hit, like I said before, there was pretty much no opportunity to make money touring, and you don't really make much money on like your music sales. It's like Spotify pays you like 0.0001 cents per stream. It's like pretty terrible. So I was basically like, okay, I need some cash right now. And someone messaged me and they were like, hey, like I know some other artists are doing one-on-one Zoom sessions. Would that be something that you could do with me? I'll pay you, whatever you want. So I was like, I've never done this before. Like, I don't know if I'd be good at it, but whatever, like, let me try it out. And I did a session with him, and, I really enjoyed, like, being able to explain music concepts and show this producer, my techniques and things like that. And so I was like, oh, I actually like this, and I think I'm, like, pretty decent at it. Let me see if, like, other people would be interested. So I made this post on my Instagram. I put on, like, these, like, nerdy glasses and, like a blazer, and I was like, the tech house school is open. That's like the genre I make. If you're interested, drop a comment below. And I got like a bunch of comments, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna start offering Zoom sessions as like a full-time thing. And I was doing like $50 an hour, and like the first couple weeks were just like slammed. It was like I was doing like 4 or 5 sessions a day, which is not like that many hours a day, but for me it's like a lot of time to like it's one-on-one. It's like it was so draining. Like my voice would actually be like kind of gone by the end of the day because I was just talking for like 5 hours straight to people, and like I was like
repeating some things too, right?
Repeating things, but also I made it very individualistic. So what I would do is these producers would be able to share their projects with me, and I would open it up and kind of like analyze it. So it was very like individually tailored as opposed to just like me teaching something and them like learning. And I was like so concerned about people getting the value for their money, and I was all like almost nervous, like, oh, what if I wouldn't be able to perform well in this situation? And I was so concerned about that. So basically I did that for all of 2020, and made a decent amount of money doing that. Not like a crazy amount, but enough to kind of help with the lack of touring. But it took up a lot of my time because I would have to do, I'd have to like be at a certain place at a certain time. This is when our meeting's going to happen, and work with this producer. And so by the end of 2020, early 2021, I kind of took a break, and I was like, I'm not doing any more lessons right now. I think the shows are going to come back soon. I just, I want to work on my music. I want to work on my social media. This is kind of getting in the way. And I started putting some stuff on YouTube. So I would basically...
I saw,
I put, one of my videos, I think it's like getting close to like 100,000 views, which in the grand scheme of YouTube is not that big.
Oh, it's close to 200 now. I checked it out.
Okay, yeah. So it's not that big in the grand scheme of things, but for like the little specific genre of house music that I do, it's like it's good compared to like the competitors on YouTube. And so this video did really well, and someone messaged me and they're like, hey, I'm in this community where I pay a monthly fee, and this other producer basically provides all these videos for us on music production, and we get feedback, blah blah blah. it's for this other genre, but I think you would be a great coach to kind of restart this community in a new genre, the one that you do, and we can build it up. And he messaged me this idea earlier in 2021, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be a ton of work. Like, I'm gonna have to pre-record all these videos, and like, what if nobody wants to join? What if we only have like there's 20 people in there, and it's like such a grind, and I'm already so busy making my own music. But I was like, you know what, like, this guy, he seems really ambitious, and it's not a bad idea. Like, why don't we try it out? And so I spent the summer kind of recording all these videos to have as like my core content. It's like the start of the course pretty much. And we did it on this platform called Discord, which is kind of like,
so the Discord has, because Discord is like you can create chat rooms.
Yeah.
But there's also a separate place inside Discord where you can have like a membership like area.
Yeah, so I'll touch on that. But yeah, basically Discord, you have like a server, and within the server you kind of have, think of it as like a forum. You have like different channels that can be on different topics. So
got it.
Basically it's just like a way to organize people all into one space where they can talk to each other over text. You can actually talk to each other over video and audio as well. Like, people use it a lot for video gaming, like playing with their friends, because you can talk to each other. But yeah, he was like, Discord is like a good platform for this. I already know how to set it up. I've been in this other one. And so yeah, I go pre-record the videos, and we have to make a website for this, a landing page. We have to make a logo, come up with a name, which we came up with is kick and bass, because in house music, the kick drum is kind of like, every track has a kick drum. That's like the beat. The bass line is like a big thing. And yeah, so I kind of, I realized I don't want to do lessons anymore, because I'm trading too much time for not enough money.
Right.
I basically have to be at this certain place at a certain time, and it's going to take all these hours. So if I do, I was only charging $50 an hour to
which
start.
is ridiculous.
Ridiculously cheap. And I thought my idea was that if
you pay $50 for a haircut, and it only takes 30 minutes.
Yep. And I was like, oh, if I charge not a lot, I'm going to get a lot of customers. And I was worried that I wasn't going to get a lot of customers.
Yeah.
And I didn't really, I did adjust my price like a couple times and moved it up. But I was always just scared that like
people wouldn't pay.
Or
they
that
would think it was not worth the price.
Exactly. Or that I would be ripping them off or something like that. Even though that was never my intention. And like, I knew I provided value, but I was just like.
I think it's one of those things where like because it was something new, that you're providing so much value that you don't even know what the value is worth.
Exactly. I had no idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was like, I can't do these lessons really anymore. This is a great way for me to do something that I've been doing a year at and been practicing myself as like an educator and teacher. This is going to be like the next step of like, how can I move myself from this individualized person to still benefiting all these producers, because I knew I was providing a service, but do it in a way that gives me more time and I can potentially benefit a lot more people at once, because I just can't work with that many people if it's one-on-one. So yeah, we started this Discord in July, and I think we had like after like the first day or two or week, like 40 people signed up, and we were like ecstatic.
How much were you charging?
So at the time we were charging I want to say like 60 to 65 a month, and what you would get with that membership is you would get access to the Discord. You would get in the Discord, there are all the links to the videos of me explaining my tracks, giving away my project files, talking about tips and tricks for music production. So you would have the links to all of that. We secured a couple discounts on some software for music production. Nothing major, but
it's like a bonus.
Exactly. Like, yeah, by being a member, you save a little bit of money on tools that you're probably going to want to buy anyway, like 10%, 15% here. And then the other aspect was you can get feedback from me on your music. And so it started off, and this was a big mistake, was that by being a member you get unlimited feedback on your music. And I've quickly realized that it's never a good idea to offer unlimited anything unless you have a kind of, a way to do it.
Yeah.
Because I was I was like, wow, people are sending me a lot of music, and I promised them unlimited feedback, and so I have to listen to all this music and type my feedback, because typing feedback is a lot quicker than sitting there for an hour on Zoom. I could listen to something, write my feedback in 5 minutes, and provide a service to them, like a really good service. Like, my ears are kind of trained in a way that a lot of people's ears aren't trained, but unlimited was just not the right call. So we had to make a ton of adjustments. We changed our price points at one point as well. I could talk about that.
Well, what are you charging now?
So now, we started with just one membership, which was one tier, right? Standard, and that got you unlimited feedbacks and access to the Discord. And then a few months later, we offered a few more tiers. So we offered a cheaper tier, which gets you into the community. You get all the videos, you get all the discounts, you get to talk with everyone, but
cheaper than $50.
$40.
Why did you decide to go cheaper with the $40?
So basically, the cheaper service doesn't get any feedback. So having more of those members in the Discord doesn't require any more of my time, because they're just benefiting from stuff that I make in general that I'm going to make for everyone. So I wanted that option there, because I wanted people, I wanted people that maybe couldn't afford $60 a month, that only wanted to do $40 a month to still be able to get most of the content, or maybe they were unsure about the platform and they can upgrade later. So I wanted to get those people in, and what we did was we kept the same price. So we didn't want to, everyone was on that $60 or $65. We didn't want to change that price. Basically what we did was we kept everyone's membership there, and we changed it so that tier only got 2 feedbacks a month. So before it was unlimited, and now we're because of growing demand, there's a lot of people that want to be in the server. We have to change what we're offering. You guys only get 2 now. If you want more than 2, you can upgrade to $99 a month, and then you'll get 5. And then I offered another service, and this is gonna take a little bit more to explain, but it was basically so how before I talked about labels in music as kind of be where you sign your music and then they put it out. So that's how a lot of beginner artists start, is they send their music to these labels. But the labels get thousands of demos a day, and so it's really hard to get them to actually listen to your music. And I have connections to all these labels because I've pretty much worked with them for the last 5 years. So I was like, okay, why don't I try to use my connections in the music industry, and I'm gonna get 15 labels on board that basically they're gonna prioritize my members' demos over everyone else's. And if you want to use this service,
how much are you charging for that, bro?
That's $99.
You got to be charging $9,000 for that. Are you kidding?
Well,
you're literally getting, you're skipping, imagine you're standing outside the club.
Yeah.
And there's a line going around the block.
It's like the Six Flags Fast Track Pass or whatever.
Yeah. You got to raise that price, man. Anyways,
but there's different. Obviously, there's different tiers of labels and kind of notoriety. So it's not like I have all of the highest tier ones.
Of course, but it isn't so much about the quality of the label.
Yeah.
It's the label itself.
Yeah.
Just the name label, because the difference between label X and label A.
Yeah.
They don't. It's not that you're taking advantage. It's just that, like you said, you're skipping the line for them.
Yeah.
Right. And are you kidding? It's like, bro, you can literally ask anyone right now, any artist or anyone. You pay me $100 a month, and I can literally get you in front of. I can get you in front of X, Y, and Z. I'm fucking paying $100, bro.
I mean,
$1,000 I'm paying.
What we noticed was that when we launched that, a lot of people obviously kind of upgraded to that service, and I keep a monitor on how many people use it, and it's actually not as many as you would think, because I think a lot of people are they really want the best quality music before they send it out, because the way it works is that I can reject it if I think the song isn't strong enough. I'm not gonna send the label and ruin my relationship with them. I'm not gonna send them something that's not good enough for them. I can kind of tell, and you know the label just may say no as well. So it's not like any guarantee that you know it's going to get signed or blah blah blah. But yeah, I think I probably was a victim to my own undercutting of the prices there, because I was like, you know,
I mean, you started this last year, right? In mid 2021.
Yeah, it's like 6 months ago.
So it's a progress for sure.
It's a progress. I'm learning so much, you know, every day about it, and it's nice for me because most DJs, all they do is like make music and play shows, and that's it. And that is a very temporary thing, because if you're not hot anymore and promoters don't want to book you, like that's kind of it. And like you'll see that like people that were like hot in 2014, maybe they're not getting any bookings in 2020 because they weren't able to adapt with the times, or their fans kind of grew out of clubbing and music. You know, people don't really go to clubs when they're, I mean, there's obviously exceptions, but you know, if you have fans that are 25 years old 10 years ago, those people are all 35 and like have families, and they're not going out to festivals. So I was thinking about it, and I was like, okay, you know, I never want to burn out for music stuff. I always want to be like, you know, like Tiesto is like a good example. That dude's been around since like the 90s.
Forever,
and, you know,
bro.
He's adapted like crazy. David Guetta, great example, like still making chart-topping music, you know, even though he's been around forever. I obviously want to do that, but I want like, I don't want all of my income to be relied on that. And this is almost like, for me, it could be like a retirement thing as well.
Oh, of course,
like,
dude, of course.
Know.
I mean, listen, just with time and fine-tuning everything and just learning the process, and then, you know, you can even go further of like actually like getting training by people that are pretty much providing the same kind of service to their own community, and learning how they charge and learning how they do things. You know, that shit will pay you way more than any performance will.
Exactly. And now that I've learned the skills to do it in this kind of sphere and genre, I feel like I understand how to sell a product to people, or to create a product that people want, and those skills you can apply to pretty much anything, like literally anything. So it's been like super fun to just, and exciting to like kind of build this and like find ways to differentiate yourself. And
for sure. I just want to go back to the pricing thing, because and this is kind of like, I guess, a message, because I talk a lot about pricing. There's like, I think there's like this whole, in the barber industry, this whole like a lot of barber influencers and just barbers just making content around pricing, because there's a lack of understanding value that you provide. And in comparison, you know, just for you to have an idea, you know, I looked this up the other day. The average American spends $2,500 a year just on coffee.
That's great. I spend $6 a day on coffee every day. It adds up.
So that's $2,500 a year that they spend on coffee.
Crazy.
Maybe they know, maybe they don't know. Regardless of the fact, they spend that money, right? Charging, you know, for barbers $35 for a haircut, obviously it depends on the service you're providing, but that should be a starting point. Only because, in comparison, people spend so much more money on things that literally they buy it every single day, versus a one-time purchase for that service that you're doing that's gonna last you for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, right? So going back to the pricing, if you're charging $40 a month while they're spending $2,500, and you divide that by 12 on just coffee, you know, you can kind of like, okay, maybe the value that I'm providing is worth more. When you kind of compare and you look at it from the, you know, bird's eye view kind of thing, and you start understanding like, I am helping someone make their track. I am giving you professional advice, and not only that, I am literally giving you, like, if your track is good enough, you're paying for the opportunity for your track to be exposed.
It's only a matter of time till someone from that community like goes real big, because you see the talent. And so, it is like a full 360 kind of like picture, which I like, because, you know, that's the problem I noticed with a lot of other communities.
Oh, the beautiful thing is, Now you have your own label.
Exactly. And, you know, I have a party brand or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But like that was the thing that I noticed, was that on YouTube you have all these amazing content creators that are really good educators on music production, but they're not in the music industry. So they don't have any of the industry knowledge on how to do it. It's kind of like, imagine like haircuts. It's like you're learning like how to do, you know, the trendiest haircuts for 2022, but you're not learning how to create a business for yourself and be competitive in that sense. And, you know, I like that full 360 picture. And I think going back to like the pricing discussion is that this is something I need to get better with as like an entrepreneur, just like as a, you know, a businessman, is realizing that like I get a lot of like guilt with the idea of, oh, if someone can't afford this, or if they paid for it and it wasn't right for them, or they didn't use the service in the way that they could, I feel like I'm responsible for that. And that was something that I would stress about in my Zoom sessions as well, as I'd be like, okay, what if they booked the session and they weren't really ready for a session with me, or they thought it was going to be this and it wasn't this, and I would feel like this guilt that like, oh, I'm kind of like taking their money, even though that was, you know, I was never doing anything shady like that at all. But it's just something I kind of have to like deal with, and, you know, realize that at the end of the day, these people are individual purchasers that, you know, I'm not forcing them to get anything.
Yeah, of course.
They spend their money how they like, and, you know, to undervalue my product is to just, you know, it's just hurting me in the long run. And, you know, to be a little bit more confident with that. And it's definitely getting to that point. And that's the fun thing, is like I like being out of my comfort zone and being like, okay, I have these like weaknesses. Obviously, you know, we didn't set things up perfectly the first time. You know, but now I learned something from this, and now if I were to ever start another business like this, like another course, another teaching thing, it's like I know exactly, you know, how to value
how to start, how to value,
exactly. So
it's really I make content. I make a lot of content based on pricing because, you know, just like you are learning the I guess the lessons of value and how to value certain things.
And how other people value it as well.
Exactly.
You know?
It's something that I talk a lot about with my barbering community, where it's like, you know, okay, cool, you want to charge X amount for a haircut. But it's like, you know, there's you can look at value and how much you charge based on a bunch of different things, right? You can look at you're trading your time, or you're trading a service, and if you trade time, there's only a cap, right? There's a very low cap where you're gonna achieve that cap really fast. But when you trade your service, then at that point it's like, if you know for a fact that you're providing a good quality service, then the price you set will filter the kind of customers that you want.
Very true.
So if, for instance, you know, like the whole unlimited thing, right? You provide the unlimited like feedback. Well, that's because the price is set at a specific amount. But if you put that price at a different level, you're literally cutting 70% of the people. And then the 30% that actually are willing to pay that price, that is, you know, let's just say it's 5 times that, or even 10x, then because they were willing to pay, then at that point they're less likely to bother you with small shit. It's the same thing with haircuts. It's like the higher someone is willing to pay, the less they're going to bother you for little dumb shit. Right? It's the same kind of concept.
I think that kind of goes back to what I was saying before with like the guilt of the customer. I think another thing is that, like, obviously, you know, I want to be able for everyone to afford this haircut. I want to be able to, for everyone to get my service, but at the end of the day, that's just not the world we live in. And so, you know, there's different products for different
people.
You know, for different people and what people can afford, and there's nothing wrong with that. And by, you know, maybe, you know, if you have 5 people spending $1,000 a month versus, you know, 50 people spending $100 a month, you're getting the same amount of money at the end of the day. But, you know, you're
either working more or working less.
You're either working more or working less, and, you know, you obviously, if you're charging $1,000 a month, you have to provide a different service. But I feel like as I'm able to, because as my DJ career grows, I'm going to have less and less time for being in front of the computer and working with people. So I'm always thinking about how do we scale this so that I can still provide my value.
Bro,
without...
I always tell you this, bro. Every time you come here and we talk, I'm like, bro, the potential that you have is like crazy. It's just insane. You're gonna kill it, bro.
I appreciate it, bro.
You're gonna kill it, and like I'm sure you will. You're gonna learn certain things, but just like this conversation is just, like my brain is just like the amount of different things that you can do, that you can create, that can obviously financially benefit you, but also you're providing so much opportunity for the customer. Is insane.
It's cool how you can create value out of something that wasn't there before just by, and that's like the beauty of like having just like good ideas on something is like, without spending a ton of resources, it's just like organizing a couple things and you basically create like a new product or value that, benefits society, injects money into the economy. And it's like this whole idea, like it was literally like nothing. It was just an idea from an Instagram message 7 months ago,
right.
And now it's like this thing that is my partner. This is what all he does now full time is he had like another passive income job. He lives in Denmark actually, so he had like another passive income job.
No way.
And he still like that is like purely passive for him. It's like billboard advertising in the city of Copenhagen, but now he's kind of like full time on this, and like this was just literally like an idea and a couple hours of work, more than a couple hours, but hours of work filming videos and coming up with the concept and organizing it, and it's like now we have this thing that's just like growing.
Yeah.
So what I realized was that you don't need any formal training, you don't need any real money to start or resources. We haven't spent like a dime on any marketing, on any advertisements on platforms. Like we've tried like $100 here and there, and like just to like see what it does. If you just have like a good idea and like a good service that you provide for people, and you find a way to put that all together, like you have a business, a very lucrative business that you could create, and it's like all out of thin air. And I was always the person that was like scared to start a business, or I was like, I'm not like an entrepreneur, I'm not that kind of guy. Starting a business would be so hard. It's like you have to do all these things. And I realized like from starting Kick and Bass was that you just have to go for it and just start it and see where it takes you and learn from things and adapt. Because if I was like, this is gonna be too much work, we're not gonna do this, which I almost was, like this would have never happened and would have a different life than I do now. So
yeah, for sure.
Now in the future, I'm like hungry for things. I'm gonna be, if I think I can do something, fuck it. Who cares if it fails? Let's just like go after it.
Well, that comes from taking risks.
Exactly.
So
and
the more risk you take, the more you get used to it, and the more you're willing to take more risk in the future.
Exactly. And it's not like a blind risk. It's like you gotta come in with a
calculated one.
You gotta come in with a plan too, and you gotta know what you need to do and to get to the next level and these steps. But don't ever. And this is something that you taught me that I told Freddie, my business partner, is like we can never undervalue or like underassume what the customer wants to pay. Because people will probably pay way more than what you think if you actually offer a good service. And it's so easy to just be like, I don't think anyone wants this, or it's too much money, and never to undervalue that, because
bro,
it can be a hard mistake.
Well, I'm glad you learned and took something away. That's always
the beauty of the podcast. It's the mission of the podcast is like, obviously learning from your experience with courses and being a business owner as a barber. It's like, applying that to a totally different business, but there's still so much similarity with how things work. Well, that's a great kind of ending ending point, because we're wrapping up on time. Dude, we're gonna wrap up right now, but before we do, again, I want to thank you for coming by. Thank you.
I want to wish you all the best. I mean, I've offered before, but I will always offer any help or any advice or anything that, you know, with your courses or with any whatever.
Of course.
If you know, if you want to bounce ideas off each other, I'm all here. Like, I love doing this. One of the things, it's like, this is only the second episode, and I like, this is absolutely fucking fun.
It's so fun, like,
and like I just you know, I'm telling you, I've been wanting to do this for years, bro. Since like 2018, I'm like, I want to like start my own show, like my podcast. It's just like there was just a lot of other things around, and maybe I wasn't ready, maybe, you know, whatever it may be. Finally started, and you know, I can tell you right now that this is super fun. I enjoy it. I enjoy talking to people like you. I can't wait for, you know, to talk to other people. I can't wait until we catch up. Maybe a year from now, we'll make another podcast.
We definitely got to do a follow-up one and see how our journeys have moved in a year. But
for sure, man. So thank you for coming by. Anything you need, you got my contact.
Definitely.
And yeah, man. If anybody wanna find you, where they?
Yeah. So on social media, you can find me at It's the Westend. So ITS the Westend. That's pretty much my handle on like every social media. Instagram is probably where I post like the most stuff, but TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, It's the Westend, and if I'm playing a show near you, I'll announce it there. So that's where you can find
Promote yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Cool.
This is a wrap for this episode.
Episode 2,
Peace.
baby.
Appreciate
Peace,
it, man.
brother.
Thank you.